So now we will discuss on to find potential difference by a potentiometer. This is our next important thing, and this is as good as saying how a potentiometer works. So we will be just finding that. Okay. So I am considering a schematic diagram of a potentiometer like this. Now I am having wire AB which is made of manganese or constant, that is potentiometer wire, and this potentiometer wire AB is having two circuits here on top and bottom. So as you can notice, so here we will try to find the potential difference across this resistance R1. Okay, in order to find that, I am building one small circuit across R1. So across R1 I am considering cell of EMF E1. Okay, so this cell is connected such that its positive terminal is connected to positive terminal of strong battery, capital E. Okay, and negative terminal of the cell is connected to jockey J through what? Through key K2 and sensitive galvanometer G. Okay, so this is how we are showing this secondary circuit here at the bottom. Okay, and R1 is what? R1 is that resistance across which potential difference is to be found. This is what we should remember. Fine. Now, next, if I consider this circuit here, as you all know, this top portion segment is nothing but this particular circuit is called as auxiliary circuit. Okay, and here firstly what we shall do is, first we will close key K1. Okay, we will not close K2, we will keep K2 open only. Okay, close K1, then adjust rheostat to a constant value of resistance, say R. Okay, to a required value of resistance, capital R. Okay, and thus by ensuring resistance at capital R, we are ensuring the uniform current, capital I, being flowed through this wire AB. Now, but still we tend to see that when current flows through this wire AB, galvanometer G will show a deflection. Now this indicates that there is some amount of leakage of current. Current is getting leaked, right? So that leakage is clearly because of imbalance in the circuit. So obviously we have to work out for the balance point of the circuit now. So next step what we shall do is, we will close key K2. Okay, then we will start moving jockey on this wire AB. If we move jockey on this wire AB, we tend to see that the galvanometer deflection slowly it starts to come to zero deflection, and at one point J the galvanometer will show zero deflection, and this point J I will mark and I will measure the length. Suppose that length is, say, small l. Okay, then AJ is equal to small l. Then I will consider potential difference across R1 as capital E. Okay, and rheostat set value is capital R here, and small r is what? Resistance of the wire, that I am considering. Fine. And capital L I am taking as the length of wire AB. That entire segment AB is nothing but capital L, and AJ is that balance length. AJ is called as balance length, and I am denoting it by small l here. Okay. Now I will just explain once again for your clarification. E1 cell is connected to positive terminal of strong battery. Okay, and negative terminal of E1 is connected to jockey J through key K2 and galvanometer G. Okay, and firstly we have to close K1, then establish a uniform current, and then close K2, move jockey, arrive at balance point or null point in case of galvanometer, so that galvanometer shows zero deflection, then mark the length as small l. Now these are the important intermittent things that we should go ahead and do. I hope this part is clear. Now let us go to the mathematics of it. So let us talk about theory calculation of this entire portion. Okay, so as I am taking K as potential gradient of wire AB and AJ as small l. Okay, so over here I will write the theory here. That means I am deriving a mathematical equation for this particular experiment. Okay, so now you know that potentiometer works on the principle that V is directly proportional to L. Okay, so hence if K is potential gradient, then V is equal to what? K into L. V is equal to K into L. I take this as my equation number 1, first equation. Okay, if V is equal to K into L and capital L is length of that entire wire, then very clearly I can write current in wire AB. Current in wire AB. Current in wire AB is equal to, I'll take this current as capital I. Okay, then I is equal to, what is the formula, my friends? Remember cell discussion. In that discussion we had derived I is equal to E divided by EMF of the cell divided by total resistance. So total resistance set at the rheostat is capital R. Okay, and resistance of the wire is how much? Small r. Now, since we have dealt with E divided by R plus R, okay, then we should also arrive at one more important thing here. K is equal to potential gradient. K is equal to what? Current in the wire multiplied by resistance in the wire divided by length. Correct? Potential gradient is what? Potential difference divided by length. What is potential difference across AB? Is it not I into resistance of AB? Correct? So I into resistance of AB I am mentioning, that is ED divided by length. Okay? And over here what is I? I is E divided by R plus R. So this is equal to, I can mention E divided by R plus R into small r divided by L. I hope I am clear here, right? So let us take this as equation number 2. Now let us go ahead and substitute this value of K in equation 1. So using equation 2 in equation 1, then I will get V is equal to K. K is nothing but what? V divided by R plus small r into small r divided by capital L into L. So very easily you can see that potential difference across resistance R1 has been found. Okay, but before going to that conclusion, my friends, let us not hurry up. Let us say that V is what? V is the potential difference across length AJ, correct? And AJ length or AJ segment, is it not parallel to R1 here? Since it is parallel to R1, in parallel combination, potential difference is same. So very clearly, V, that is potential difference, this I will write it as VAJ, so that we will not get confused. This is VAJ. Now VAJ must be equal to what? Potential difference across R1, right? So, but VAJ is equal to V across R1, correct? So therefore VR1 is equal to V, that is equal to what? E divided by R plus R into small r divided by capital L into small l. So this is the derivation that we have done. Now by knowing the value of small l, EMF is known, capital R is known, small r is known, capital L is known, and small l should be measured by taking potentiometer experiment. Okay, in the experiment we will measure length AJ. That length AJ is nothing but L here. If you substitute everything, we will get what? Potential difference across or potential difference between any 2 points. Now here we have measured potential difference between any 2 points connected across by the resistance R. I think this particular discussion is clear. So with this particular discussion, I'll wind up with my discussion. Now let us move on to next part. Okay. Hello dear students, welcome back once again to Current Electricity. Now in this session, we will be concentrating on applications of potentiometer. And amongst these applications, for our syllabus we have totally 2 kinds of applications. By using potentiometer, we can, first application is we can make a comparison of EMFs between 2 cells. Okay, 2 cells will take and will measure their EMFs and will take their ratios. That is called comparison. Okay, and second application is measurement of internal resistance of a cell. Now these are 2 applications that we will be talking about. And in first application, that is comparison of EMFs of 2 cells. Now this is the circuit schematics as I have drawn. Now in this particular schematics, you can see that potentiometer wire AB is considered, okay, and we have auxiliary circuit as I was explaining to you earlier. Auxiliary circuit containing strong battery of EMF capital E, then ammeter and rheostat and key. Now these are the components of auxiliary circuit, and end A is connected to positive terminal of the strong battery and end B is connected to negative terminal of the strong battery through ammeter, rheostat and key. Now this is auxiliary circuit that we have, and in the secondary circuit we will be considering 2 cells. Say first cell of EMF E1, second cell of EMF E2, and E1 and E2, these 2 cells are connected to 2 connectors, and those connectors are named them as 1 and 2. Connector 1 and connector 2, and then connector 3 is that common connector that is connected to galvanometer, wire galvanometer to the jockey. Okay. Now initially there are no connections here at all. Okay. So initially what we have, cell E1 and cell E2 are connected such that their negative terminals are connected to the connectors 1 and 2 respectively, and then connector 3 is connected to jockey through the galvanometer. So this is the circuit explanation that we have. I hope you can make this out. Okay. Then how we can go ahead and make the measurement of potential, measurement of or comparison of EMFs of 2 cells. Now firstly we should close key K1, okay, then adjust the rheostat to a required level of resistance so that we can establish a uniform value of current in potentiometer wire AB. This is first step that we will ensure. After this, we should never touch this auxiliary circuit, and rheostat should be set to that resistance value only. So this auxiliary circuit, in this auxiliary circuit, rheostat should never be touched. This is the approach that we should have. Okay. Then, as you can notice here, firstly what I will do is I will connect cell E1 to connector 3. Then galvanometer will show reflection very clearly. Because of that reason, now what I will do is I will make this jockey to move on this particular wire. When I move the jockey to jockey on this wire, I will ensure that the jockey is moved such that the galvanometer deflection, which was non-zero, okay, this galvanometer will slowly start coming to what? Zero deflection. This is one thing that you should remember. And jockey at some point, say J1, galvanometer deflection becomes zero. Okay, then that length AJ1, I'll take it as L1. Okay, then this L1, it must be what? It must be proportional to the EMF, or EMF of the cell must be proportional to what? L1, right? So hence I can say therefore E1 is proportionate to L1. I hope it is clear. So this is on the basis of principle of the potentiometer that we have already covered in my previous session. Now, secondly, now what I will do is I will disconnect these 1 and 3, then I will connect 2 and 3 now. When I make connections between 2 and 3, now cell B2 is engaged in the circuit. So again, galvanometer will show a deflection. Again, I will make the jockey to move, and I see that jockey will show a null deflection. Jockey point J2 will show a null deflection in the galvanometer, and that distance AJ2, I will take it as J2, and eventually EMF E2 must be proportional to what? J2. Now we have obtained these two now, so therefore I can say E1 by E2 should give us what? L1 by L2. Now the ratio L1 to L2, that will give me what? Comparison of EMFs. Is it not a simple technique, right? So I will quickly once again repeat the entire process. Firstly, in the auxiliary circuit, close EK, then adjust rheostat to a required value of resistance so that a uniform current is established in the potentiometer via AB. Then rheostat adjustment should not be touched any further. Okay. Then we will connect 1 and 3. Then we will move the jockey to arrive at zero deflection or null deflection of the galvanometer. Then I will measure that length AJ1 as L1. Then clearly E1 is directly proportional to L1. Next, I will connect 2 and 3. Then here AJ2 will be the null length or the length, balance point length. So AJ2 is equal to L2, and therefore E2 is directly proportional to L2. Thus, if I take the ratio E1 to E2, then very clearly E1 divided by E2 will become equal to what? L1 by L2. Now, this is application number 1 for you. I hope this particular application is clear to you all, right? It's quite easy, It's like a cakewalk. Now, without much ado, now let us move on to the next application of potentiometer, and that second application will be what? The measurement of internal resistance of a cell. That we will see as our next application. Now let's move on to second application of potentiometer. It is to find internal resistance of a cell. Okay. The circuit as such, if you just observe here, we have a very simple circuit. As I was explaining to you guys, the auxiliary circuit is almost the same here. End A of the potentiometer wire is connected to positive terminal of the strong battery, and negative terminal of the strong battery is connected to end B via or through emitter, rheostat, and PK1. This is auxiliary circuit as it is. And secondly, we are considering the cell whose internal resistance has to be measured, and let us consider a cell of EMF E1, or I can consider, I will do like this, I will consider EMF of the cell as a small e, okay, and its internal resistance I will take it as small r. Now these are the things that will assume as symbol. Okay. For this particular cell, how I will connect the cell is I will connect the positive terminal of the cell to positive terminal of the strong battery. Okay. And negative terminal of the cell is connected to jockey through a galvanometer, sensitive galvanometer, and also across this particular cell I am considering a resistance box, standard resistance box. Okay. And along with that resistance box I am connecting key K2 in series with it. So this is the setup or circuit across the cell I am considering. Okay. Now let us begin with the experiment. What we should do here is firstly we should close key K1, keep K2 open, do not close it. K1 is closed, then rheostat is adjusted such that a uniform current is established in the potentiometer wire. This is our first primal thing. Then secondly, we should never disturb this rheostat setting. We should keep it as it is. Then once I close K1 and adjust rheostat, current is established in potentiometer wire, then very easily I can say that this cell is not supplying current. Remember, potentiometer never draws current. So for that reason we can very clearly understand that this cell is not driving, this cell is not providing any amount of current to the circuit. So obviously the potential difference across the cell must be EMF of the cell. Now under this particular situation, the moment I see that the galvanometer is deflecting, okay, so I will start moving jockey on the potentiometer wire, and at a point say J1 I will obtain the zero deflection or null deflection in the galvanometer, and I will note this particular length AJ1. AJ1 I will take it as L1. Fine. Okay. Then as I am mentioning to you guys, this cell is not delivering current to the circuit. If cell is not delivering current to the circuit, then its potential difference must be EMF. That we have learned during the theory on cells. Okay, so accordingly, here potentiometer principle says that potential difference is directly proportional to length. So hence here potential difference is EMF. So I will say E is directly proportional to L1. So this is my first step. So I will do like this. I will write this as E is equal to K into L1. I will say. Then K is what? Sensitivity. K is nothing but the potential gradient of the potentiometer. The next step, I will keep this key K1 closed only. Then secondly, I will close K2 now. When key K2 is closed, this circuit is complete now. This circuit is closed now. So accordingly, cell will start to deliver the current, and I will introduce a required amount of resistance in the resistance box. So accordingly, now the resistance R is set. Okay, and this resistance R is receiving the current from the cell. So thus we can say that now the cell is delivering the current, hence the potential difference is nothing but the terminal potential difference. I hope you can agree on that, right? So hence we can say that under this situation, galvanometer again shows a deflection now, and when galvanometer shows a deflection, I will move jockey again on the potentiometer wire, and at point J2 I will get zero deflection of the galvanometer or null deflection of the galvanometer, and I will measure this length AJ2 as L2. Then, as I was mentioning to you guys, the potential difference across the cell is nothing but the potential difference across the resistance here. So, very clearly we can say V is directly proportional to L2, or I can say V is equal to K into L2. And again, K is what? K is nothing but K is the potential gradient of the potentiometer. So we have equations 1 and 2 in function now. Now let us go ahead and understand about internal resistance. Now if you recall back the derivation of internal resistance expression for a cell. Now we had derived it as R is equal to E minus V divided by V into capital R. I hope you recall this particular equation. Okay. Now over here, small v is nothing but what K into L1. So I'll substitute that. So K L1 minus K L2 divided by K L2 whole multiplied by R. Now K is taken out as common in the numerator, it cancels out with the K in the denominator. So thus we will get internal resistance for R is equal to L1 minus L2 divided by L2 into R. Now here what is capital R? Capital R is the resistance that we have set in the resistance box, and small r is the internal resistance. So thus we will obtain the expression for internal resistance of the cell by using potentiometer. Okay. So now the measurement is purely in terms of length here, and capital R is already known that we are setting by introducing that suitable resistance in the resistance box. So thus we have expression for internal resistance, and this is second application for you people. I hope this particular application is clear. Now next step we shall move ahead. Let's move on to sensitivity of potentiometer. Now sensitivity of potentiometer, every human being has got a sensitivity. Likewise, potentiometer also has a sensitivity. Now, what is the meaning of sensitivity? Sensitivity is the property by virtue of which the smallest negligible value that can be measured by that particular instrument. Now, potentiometer measures what? Potential difference, right? Or EMF. So definitely sensitivity of potentiometer indicates the smallest potential difference that can be measured by the potentiometer, right? So hence what is sensitivity? It is the smallest potential difference, smallest potential difference that can be measured, that can be measured by the potentiometer. So this is sensitivity of a potentiometer. Now when we are talking about sensitivity of potentiometer, as I am mentioning, it is the ability of the potentiometer to measure smallest potential difference. That means K is equal to, K is what? Potential gradient. K is equal to V that is V divided by L, and to have small potential difference, potential gradient must also be small. Do you agree on that? Because K is directly proportional to V, and if V is the smallest, then K should be what? Least. So hence we can say that the sensitivity of potentiometer depends directly on potential gradient. So hence we can say that smallest the potential gradient or smaller the potential gradient, more sensitive will be the potentiometer. So that means sensitivity must be what? Inversely proportional to potential gradient. Do you agree on that? Right? So this implies sensitivity is Now what is K? K is equal to V by L. 1 by K is nothing but L by V. It is proportional to L divided by V. Now also remember that V is directly proportional to I. Now here I can say that in the bracket I will mention that I will refer to it a bit later. V is directly proportional to I. Right. Okay. Now, hence we can say that the sensitivity of a potentiometer can be increased by two steps or by two methods. Okay. First factor is length. So as you can notice, sensitivity is directly proportional to length. So that means we should increase the length of potentiometer wire in order to have higher sensitivity. So to have higher sensitivity, number one, length of potentiometer wire must be increased. Secondly, now as you can refer here, sensitivity is inversely proportional to potential difference, and potential difference is established when current flows through the potentiometer wire. So definitely we know that V is directly proportional to I. This indicates that sensitivity must be inversely proportional to current flowing in the potentiometer wire. So hence we can comfortably say that increase in the sensitivity can be opted, can be done only by decreasing the value of current. If current is decreased, potential difference decreases. If potential difference decreases, sensitivity will increase. So hence we can say by decreasing the current, flowing in potentiometer now these are the two methods. By using these two methods we can very easily increase the sensitivity of potentiometer. I suppose this particular part is clear, and this one can be asked for 2 marks in your annual exam. So kindly remember regarding the sensitivity. Right? Now let's close the concept of discussions on potentiometer today. Okay? And in my next session I will be covering on meter bridge. So we will talk about meter bridge, or it is also called as slide wire bridge. Now this meter bridge, regarding this meter bridge, will have a detailed discussion, and it is one of the application of Kirchhoff's laws and Wheatstone bridge. So that we will see in my next session. Until then, have a nice time. See you. Now let's take a look at next important application of Wheatstone bridge. Now this particular application is meter bridge. Meter bridge is a device that is used to measure unknown values of resistances. Suppose I have a wire and I don't know what its resistivity as well as the resistance. Okay, under that situation I can very easily measure the resistance of that wire by using meter bridge setup. Okay. Now, how does the meter bridge work? That we should understand. So, before that, let us take a look at construction of a meter bridge. Okay. Now, meter bridge contains AC which is 100 centimeter or 1 meter long. Okay, and that is why it is called as meter bridge. Length of the wire is 1 meter. That is why it is called as meter bridge. Okay, so length AC is 1 meter here. It is the meter bridge wire. Okay, and this meter bridge wire is connected to copper strips. And at every end of these copper strips there are connectors which are ensured to be made. Okay, and these connectors are used for various connections. And here we will make use of copper strip for these connections, clearly because copper can offer negligible amount of resistance to the flow of current. Because if the connection setup itself is absorbing the current, then obviously the reading or the value that we obtain will not be accurate. So in order to ensure a low value of resistance being offered to the flow of current in the setup, obviously we are making use of copper strip. This is most important part, and many a times this has been asked for 1 mark. So copper strip, you remember, copper strips are used for connections in case of meter bridge. Okay. Now, and you can notice here that we are having a graduated scale running parallel to the meter bridge wire. That is one more thing. And this graduated scale is 1 meter long scale. Obviously, I may not say that, but still I am mentioning. And here we have end A of meter bridge wire being connected to a battery of EMF capital E. So that the positive terminal of the battery is connected to end A, and negative terminal of the battery is connected to C through a key K. So negative terminal is connected to end C of the meter bridge wire through key K, as you can notice here. Okay, and here there is one more connector D, and this connector what we do is we will connect one end of the galvanometer to D, and other end of the galvanometer is connected to jockey, and that jockey is marked as B here. So point B, whatever I am showing, okay, that is jockey. Jockey is marked as B with this arrowhead. Next, here we are having two resistances, R3 and X. Now R3 is a known value of resistance, and usually R3 is introduced by a resistance box. Usually, okay. So it's a resistance box which is being connected. Okay. So R3 is that known resistance, and X is the unknown resistance whose value we are supposed to find by using meter bridge. Now over here, this potentiometer wire, sorry, I'm extremely sorry, this meter bridge wire, as you can understand here, this is 1 meter long, and here what we shall do is we will treat this entire setup as our Wheatstone bridge, as you can observe at this point. Now in between A and D we are having R3, okay, and in between B and C we are having X, okay. In between A and D we have R1, and in between B and C we have R2, and this is the Wheatstone bridge because the bridging is done by means of a galvanometer connection. So as you can notice, one end is connected to jockey B, other end is connected to the connector D here. Now this entire segment can be visualized as a Wheatstone bridge, as you can see over here. Now let us see the working of it. Now firstly, key is closed here, then current will start to flow through this meter bridge wire, okay, and naturally galvanometer will show a deflection, and I make the jockey to be slided over. I will slide over this jockey on meter bridge wire, and at one point say D, I will obtain zero deflection in the galvanometer. That means the bridge is balanced now. It's a balanced meter bridge. Okay, and I'll measure this length, distance AB as L, and naturally the other distance, that is BC, it must be 100 minus L, because 100 centimeters is the total length. So obviously this must be 100 minus L. Okay, so clearly now we have two wires, wire AB and wire BC. Are we following this? Wire AB and wire BC. Obviously this wire AB of length L will have resistance R1. Similarly wire BC of length 100 minus L will have a resistance, say, R2. That is what I have introduced here, R1 and R2. I hope it is clear. Okay, fine. Now let us take a look at the mathematical computation now. Now what we have done, I hope you have understood. So firstly key is closed, current flows, and galvanometer shows the deflection. I'll move the jockey over the meter bridge wire and I'll move it up till galvanometer shows zero deflection. Then I can say bridge is balanced. When bridge is balanced, I'll stop the jockey over there and I'll measure lengths AB and BC, and I treat AB and BC as two distinctive wires. Okay, this is what we are having right now. And now let us take a look at theory of it, that is mathematical computation. So over here we know that resistance R is equal to rho L by A. This is the formula that I know, correct? Rho L by A. Now for wire AB, resistance is what? R1. So therefore I can say R1 is equal to rho into, what is the length here? Small l divided by A. Are you clear? Fine. Okay. Next. Similarly, R2 is equal to what? R2 is equal to rho into 100 minus L divided by A. Rho into 100 minus L by A. That is R2 here. Are we following this? Are we clear? Fine? Okay. Now, since I know these two ratios and R3 value is known, X is unknown, and we see that at point B we have obtained zero deflection in the galvanometer. That means it is null point. That means the bridge is balanced. That means the Wheatstone bridge is balanced. Current to galvanometer is zero. So hence, therefore, for balanced condition, for balanced condition of the bridge, for the balanced condition of the bridge, what we have, R1 by R2 is equal to R3 by R4 is X here. So hence I will say R1 by R2 is equal to R3 by X. So therefore X is equal to what we will get? X is equal to, we have R3 into R2 by R1. X is equal to R3 into R2 by R1, and R2 is known to us, R1 is known to us. So if we take R2 by R1, rho and A they cancel off. So thus in this part you can write it as what? R3 into 100 minus L divided by L. So therefore X will be equal to what? 100 minus L divided by L into R3. Now, this is the required expression for finding unknown resistance. Remember this, okay? So, once we have ensured this, now here we can see that length L is known to us. Length L is known to us, okay? And hence we can very easily calculate the value of X, because R3 is already introduced this particular circuit. So this is the formula that we must remember for meter bridge. So please remember, this particular meter bridge can be asked for 3 to 5 marks in your annual exam, and this is one of the important experiment even in your PU second year lab. Okay, and for your information, in the laboratory we will be performing this meter bridge experiment, but over there we will also be doing one more thing. Initially we will be introducing R3, that is known resistance on left hand side, unknown resistance on right hand side, and we take the readings. And next what we do is we will interchange known and unknown resistances. Now unknown resistance, secondly we are putting it on left hand side and known resistance on the right hand side. So the geometry of this measurement of length will also vary. Again we take the readings, and finally we will take the average of both the values that we get from first setup and second setup. Then that will give us the accurate value of meter bridge, accurate value of unknown resistance X by using meter bridge. I hope this experiment as well as the explanation on construction of the meter bridge is clear to you all. Okay, so please remember that meter bridge is one of the important application of Wheatstone bridge. So kindly remember this. Okay, so I will be just leaving this entire thing for once again for your class. You just take a look over this entire part. Okay, and I suppose with this particular discussion we are finished with current electricity chapter. So this is the last discussion that I was supposed to do, and with this I have completed my discussion on current electricity, and part 1, part 2, whatever I have discussed, kindly go through each of those videos once again and have a look at them. Prepare your own notes. Okay, be prepared with all sorts of theoretical derivations and formulae. I have already sent you one set of formulae from part 1. Okay, I hope you are making good use of that, and I will be discussing the problems on second part of current electricity, that is Kirchhoff's law, in my next session. Over there already I have discussed 3 examples on Kirchhoff's law, and in my next discussion I will be discussing on problems related to Wheatstone bridge. Okay, then some more important problems on Kirchhoff's law that will be sufficient for your annual exam preparation as well as entrance preparation. So I suppose my entire discussion on current electricity was a fruitful journey for you all. So I hope this discussion will be a worthwhile remembering on the long run for your examination preparation. So I suggest and request each one of you, kindly be prepared, be 100% accurate in your preparation and be thorough. This is my advice, and as a matter of fact, current electricity happens to be the easiest chapters in second PUC physics. I know if you practice, nothing is difficult. So kindly practice more, work out more, listen to my lectures more. Okay, again and again you play it, then have a thorough knowledge on this particular chapter. And with this note, I'll close my discussion on theory. Thank you very much. I'll see you back with numerical problems on current electricity part 2 very soon. Thank you.